This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. It is a chilly and snowy Tuesday here in
I
Pittsburgh.
thought we might be done with that. A little brisk out there today.
Brisk, yeah. Up here on Mount Olympus, coming in from the parking lot. Not all that warm, but
no, that's all right.
That's what we got to
Middle
deal with
February.
this time of year. Yeah, absolutely. But Matt, a lot of Eagles talk and that kind of stuff because they just won the Super Bowl, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing some digging on some stuff, and we've had some questions on of course, we talked about the Super Bowl victory on Monday, and some questions. Well, a lot of people were interested in our opinion that defensively the Steelers are not that far.
Yeah, I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at least you can use the Eagles as a blueprint. And I think that the Steelers started that 2 years ago.
I think, honestly, if you look at what they've been doing, they're following the same blueprint.
Right. Oh, they are.
They're just farther behind right now.
They started later. Right. And that's the best team in the league that just won the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, you're putting yourself against the best of the best right now. Right.
Yeah. Because
it's an amazing roster.
A lot of what I got was, well, they don't have Jalen Hurts. Well, yeah, of course. And the offense isn't as good. Yeah, I know that. They don't have Saquon Barkley.
Right.
That doesn't
there's missing pieces.
Yeah,
there's no question.
That's what we said. I mean, even defensively, people on the message board and on social media, well, the Steelers' defensive line isn't anywhere close to Philadelphia's.
I saw one or two.
I'm just telling you that it is.
I think it is, and I'm including the edge guys.
Yeah.
The whole front.
The front.
Yes. I mean, and I did see a couple quotes. Maybe they tweeted me directly. The Steelers don't have the D-line depth that the Eagles have.
Correct.
I'm like, that's right.
Which is why we're saying you got to draft defensive linemen.
Right. I mean, most of our mocks, we always take one, sometimes two. So I think that's something to be addressed. Youth and depth, and, the Eagles just keep replenishing that to their credit. But the Steelers have the edge depth. I mean, if you go across the front, but the 300-pounders, they don't.
Right.
But in terms of what they're trotting out right now, it's comparable.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, and everybody knows how I feel about Pro Football Focus's grades, but their rankings have the Steelers' defensive front as the number one defensive front in the league. Mm-hmm. Not ours, it's theirs.
Yeah. Totally impartial, right.
So
Hayward, Watt, Highsmith, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Ogunjobi's not a bad player. Benton's not a bad player. Right. And if you add one more piece there, okay.
Again, you start to build that depth. And here's the thing: if you start
this wasn't built in a day, folks.
No,
we're not saying it's apples to apples.
If you start to look at the Eagles' drafts, now if you go back 2019 draft, their first round draft pick was Andre Dillard,
which was a major mistake.
Was a major miss.
Yep.
They also took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the second round that year. Now they had 2 second-round picks that year, and they took Miles Sanders as well.
They got a fair amount out of him. That's fine. Right.
But the Steelers have gotten more out of Najee Harris.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's a better player than Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
2020, they took Jalen Reagor in the first round.
Instead of Jefferson.
And
even I remember the day. Now, I kind of liked Reagor, too. I mean, it wasn't egregious. Yeah. It wasn't an insane move. But I do remember Eagles Nation going, I prefer Jefferson. I'm sure it was a conversation. I think he went the next pick. And imagine if they would have taken
a great wide receiver.
And
you didn't get one.
Right.
But you tried.
Right. They tried for a while. Arcega-Whiteside, and then they eventually traded for A.J. Brown because they couldn't draft receivers.
Right. They also then that's when they got Jalen Hurts in the second round in 2020.
And that paid off in a lot of ways. Not just because he's good now, but they got stuff back for Wentz.
When they really started to build this roster and actually really started to get good, was in 2021. They took Devontae Smith at 10. They had the 10th overall pick, remember? So they were
they were not a great team at that point, right?
They then took Landon Dickerson at 37.
Another hit, right?
Milton Williams at pick 73.
Which, to their credit, this is another sidebar, and I think it's something that I'm going to stress a lot with Steeler D-line pick. Anyone on the defensive front, edge, D-line, 3 technique, nose, whatever, draft traits. That's one thing this team's really, really good at. Milton Williams was far from a well-rounded prospect at that point.
And even at this point, for him, this was really the first year that he
Oh, he blew up this season.
He has 11 and a half career sacks. Let's not pretend he came in and was Stephon Tuitt or something.
No, he was a great combine player, a little undersized. You get that guy at the end of round 3 as opposed to round 1, and it takes a little bit of time. So there's a lot of draft and develop, especially with their D linemen.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that. Draft traits on D-line.
They took Kenneth Gainwell in the 5th round that year. Obviously,
that's fine.
He's been a fine backup
he's
running
still with
back
them,
kind of guy. You look at 2022, Jordan Davis in the 1st round. Cam Jurgens.
That's not even a huge hit.
No.
I mean, he's the worst of their D tackles. I mean, he's been getting better, but he's not a slam dunk.
Keanu Benton's a better player than Jordan Davis.
Right. Like, I was a big Davis for the Steelers guy at the time, and I'm glad they didn't take him.
Yeah. Cam Jurgens in round 2. Okay.
I give them credit. One thing they're really good at is Ertz is going to be leaving, let's take Goddard. Kelsey's going to be leaving, let's take Jurgens. They're really good at finding the next guy. But he sat a year.
Yeah. Nakobe Dean in round 3.
That's paid off until he got hurt, but this rookie year was rough.
Yeah. Then they had 2 6th-round picks. They took Kyron Johnson and Grant Calcaterra. 2023, they took Jalen Carter at 9. And if he hadn't had the off-the-field stuff,
he'd never been there.
He doesn't last a 9.
No. I mean, that's a risky pick at the time. But it's also trusting your organization to manage him, Right. And that's worked out tremendously.
They had 2 first-round picks that year. They took Nolan Smith at 30.
This is the Georgia onslaught coming here, right?
Tyler Steen in their 3rd round. Sidney Brown in the 3rd round. Kaylee Ringo in the 4th round.
More Georgia, but those mid-round picks are okay, not great.
Yeah, Tanner McKee and then Moro Ajomo.
Ajomo's a nice pick for him. He's another trait CD lineman that's going to probably take over for Williams next year.
And then you look at this one, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt in the 3rd round, Will Shipley, Aeneas Smith, Jeremiah Trotter. I mean, but they've hit on some – it's like 4 straight drafts where they've hit on their early picks.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the Steelers. I don't think anybody could argue the last couple of drafts that the Steelers haven't hit on their first their first day, two days of the draft picks.
Broderick Jones is the only question. I mean, I don't say he's a bust. That's not what I'm saying at all. But was he worth trading up for? Was that a great pick? To be determined, but it's not looking wonderful at the moment. Right.
But you also look at, as we said a couple weeks ago, the Giants fans would have told you that their left tackle, Thomas.
Yeah.
Was a bust after 2 years.
Also from Georgia, right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it takes those guys a little bit of time, and Broderick Jones is still 23 years old.
Absolutely. I don't think they're
the book
upset
is not
with
written.
Him. Right.
The book is not written.
That's not over yet, right.
But
that draft overall was very good.
Yeah, but if you can string some drafts like that together, that is how you create that depth. You create a team that is a potential Super Bowl team.
3 good drafts in a row is really hard to pull off. And I think the Steelers have a chance to do it. I mean, and that would be all 3 of Omar's drafts. This past one, you didn't see the rookie tackle, obviously. There was several players, Lee, Watts, Wilson, that you didn't get anything from. They didn't get a ton of rookie snaps. But I still think it's a promising class.
Yeah.
And if you can do a 3rd one, that's a cheap foundation that almost raises the whole organization's floor.
Well, so we're already getting people calling Troy Fautanu a bust.
That's crazy. He got hurt.
It's insane. He got hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't, they should have drafted Quinion Mitchell. Okay,
that's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, but right.
Here's the thing. If you don't take Troy Fautanu last year, you're drafting an offensive tackle in the 1st round this year because you're not re-signing Dan Moore.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it.
You would need an offensive tackle. And this is not a
Tackles are hard to find in the corner.
And it's not a great offensive tackle draft.
No, I'd rather be in the corner market than the tackle market.
Yeah.
Right now. And they didn't know that at the time. But, folks, they liked Mitchell and they liked the gene.
They probably had an inkling. Like, look, there are like 6 tackles.
Well, you knew last year was a loaded
This is a loaded tackle
right.
draft. We better take one.
Yeah.
It's a loaded defensive tackle draft. You might want to take one.
Yeah, you swim in the deep waters, obviously. I know they liked Mitchell. I know they liked DeJean.
Right.
And as great as those 2 are, I don't know that even knowing what I know now, watching them win the Super Bowl, that I would trade those 2 for Frazier and Fautanu. Right. I mean, O-lines are hard to build. I mean, goal number 1 when they got here Weidl and Omar to me was, we are building this O-line. Say what you want about the last regime. They went a long stretch from the DeCastro pick where they just didn't address offensive line in the draft at all. And I guarantee that was job number one. And you mixed in a Benton pick there too. I mean, I think building the lines of scrimmage doesn't happen overnight, and it's clearly their goal starting 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
continuing into this one.
That line all got old at the same time. It's
right.
It's going to be a similar issue that you might have with this one, having drafted 5 of them in the last 2 in the last 2 drafts.
Unless they take the Eagles approach and take one every year, which
right.
I bet they do. Or 4 out of 5 years.
Or skip a year, but because you
right.
just use 5 picks on them. But 2 years from now, you're taking offensive linemen.
They don't need one in the 3rd round, but they did anyways.
Yeah.
Tyler Steen was that pick for them. Is
right.
he great? No, but he can play serviceable snaps for
Yeah,
them.
he steps in. So, I mean, if you look at, again, you took Fautano and Frazier with your first 2 picks this year. Roman Wilson, again, we'll see about that. He was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bust pick or anything like that. But you also got Peyton Wilson. You had 2 third-round picks, and you got those 2 guys. You got a lot out of Peyton Wilson this year.
Mm-hmm. And that looks like a promising pick.
Yeah. In the 4th round, you got Mason McCormick. Again, looks like you hit on that
If it's
pick.
a starting guard, that's great.
Yeah. Last year, Broderick Jones. Okay, we
just talked about him, right.
Joey Porter Jr. That's a hit.
It's similar to the Mitchell pick.
Yeah. Keanu Benton. That's a hit.
That's a hit, yeah.
Darnell Washington.
That's a hit.
That's a hit. Nate Herbig.
Hit. Right.
Everybody loves Corey Trice. He was the 241st player taken in that draft.
See, that's such an Eagles pick, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
lot
a
of
traitsy guy.
It's a lot of traits. Roll the dice and hope to swing big on a 6th or 7th round pick. It's the Mulata pick. I mean, it's if it hits, it's going to hit big. If it doesn't, it doesn't cost you anything.
Spencer Anderson's kind of the same thing. Like
he's just an extra
guy.
He's a
guy
guy,
that, an offensive lineman that is useful.
You're going to get 4 years out of him,
Yeah.
at a minimum.
I mean, if
if late round pick, if you get all 4 years out of them and they aren't a liability, that's a fine pick.
Yeah, I mean, you got George Pickens in 2022. We'll see about DeMarvin Leal this year.
Mm-hmm.
I still have high
kind
hopes
of a
for
make
him.
or break year for him.
Yeah.
It's a pivotal year.
Calvin Austin's a useful, you can say what you want about Najee Harris in 2021, but he's put up 4,300 rushing yards for you and over 1,000 receiving yards. He's got 5,500 total yards in his first 4 seasons. That's not a miss. That's not a bad
That's not a
bust.
I mean, you got 4 good years out of him. I think that's probably the end of the road for him here. But you got a lot of snaps and yardage out of him.
Yeah. Pat Freiermuth was not.
No.
The last 2 drafts in particular.
Those are the key.
They've hit on these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you put a 3rd one together, as you said, now you're one step closer to building that roster depth that you need to be able to compete at that level. And
some of your cap space opens up because you got key first year or first contract guys. That goes a long way as well. Again, they're a ways away from being the Eagles roster. The Eagles roster is one of the best ones I've seen.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really elite roster. But they make their mistakes too. I mean, this was a really good offseason for them. But their number one investment was Zach Orr. Or not Zach Orr.
Bryce Huff.
Huff, another short name, former edge defender, that they got very little out of. But they were fortunate because they have so many invested D linemen. Like Sweat wasn't a super high pick, and he's playing really well. They've drafted and developed D linemen a lot because they take the extra one.
Here's the thing about those kind of signings, though. At some point, that stuff comes due. And one thing that the Eagles have done is kind of they've played the voidable year game.
Oh, like no one else.
Like nobody else. So, for example, in 2028, this is 4 years from now. 4 seasons from now, which in the NFL is an eternity.
Right. Even Jalen Carter might not be part of the mix at that point.
Those guys,
the super young.
Those guys
4 years
aren't under
predicting
contract.
is crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Those guys aren't under contract. But they've got 19 players under contract or counting against their cap, I should say.
In 28.
In 28 for $160 million. But most of those, all but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 13 of those guys that are counting against that cap space are on voidable years.
Yeah, okay, yeah. There's tacked on,
years.
right.
So you're not going to have them.
Right.
They're not going to be part of it, including Josh Sweat, Lane Johnson. Those guys are going to be long gone.
Josh Sweat's not even going to be on the team next year.
Yeah,
you're right.
Darius Slay, he'll be retired.
But
he's still going to count $5 million against their salary cap because they've kicked the can down the road. It gets even worse in 2029. In 2029,
that's
they have
so long from now.
13 players
under contract.
Well, counting against their salary cap.
Okay, yeah.
Only 2 of whom will have contracts: A.J. Brown and Jordan Mailata.
Wow. Which still should be fine, those two. Who knows? That's still 5 years from now. Who knows, right?
Mailata's base salary is $50 million.
It's a $50 million.
$50 million.
5 years from now, right.
So the other 11 players that are counting against their cap for 2029 are on voidable deals. They're not under contract.
They're not under contract.
They've
You're
kicked
just going
that
to keep
can.
paying them, right.
It's $242 million.
Wow.
That's basically what the salary cap was this year.
Yeah.
It's not going to go up that much.
It's going to go up, and they're definitely counting on that as part of this business model, but it's not going to double. And you're not going to. You still have 51 more people you have to pay.
More than that, yeah.
So, there's a few things at play there. I mean, I bet Hurts is not their quarterback then. I would imagine at some point they pivot from Hurts to a rookie year quarterback.
Is but
they're going to pay him like
crazy.
His
cap number in 2029 is $97 million for them.
97.
They've kicked the entire contract to the years where he's not going to be not going to be an Eagle.
Yeah. One of the advantages they have is their owner is the most lucrative in terms of cash spending. Now, you still can't cheat the cap.
Which is kind of what they're trying to do.
Is what
here.
they're doing.
But at some point,
they're paying it out of pocket, but they're mortgaging cap space.
At some point, you become the Saints.
Right. It's funny
the bill
because
comes due.
I looked at the Saints contracts today. It's almost Browns-like. I mean, what's crazy about the Saints, we could even do a segment on it. They just hired a new coach, and we started looking at it is this a good job? I'm like, it's a horrible job. It's a horrible job. All their pre-June 1st cuts don't even do them any good. The Saints. I mean,
because of the contracts.
The contracts
I don't know
if
do they even have a cap guy at all? Apparently not.
The fact that they've kept their head above water this many years, I assume they're going to totally Browns tank it this year, Spencer Rattler year, because they got a new coach. It's the only time. It's the time to do it.
They're not going to fire the new coach after one season,
right?
Knowing that they're going to lose.
I mean, they've got 3 or 4 dudes led by Carr that if it's a post-June 1st cut. Okay, here's 10 million savings. Here's 8 million savings. But all those dudes are super old. Yeah. It's the
problem is you have to be cap compliant on March 12th.
Yeah, and they have very little outlets of doing so.
You can't do it.
And it's a small deal, but they extended Kamara with all these voidable years too. What are you doing? I mean, he's at the end of his road too.
And folks, the Steelers do use voidable years.
Yeah.
But not to this level.
Mm-hmm.
Every team has some voidable years.
Right.
Guys with voidable years in their contract, but. This is extreme, again, to the point where, some of this is insane.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown at that point will be about 33 years old. He's
he's healthy and
not under contract, and he's going to cost them $29.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts, he'll still be young.
Reasonably. I mean, anyone 5 years from now is not young by NFL standards. You're right.
But he's not under contract for your team, and he's going to cost you $97 million.
$97 million, right. I mean, insane numbers.
That's Deshaun Watson-like stuff.
Right. Now, with them, not with the Browns, not with the Saints, it's fine. If you get a ring, I don't care what it costs you. I very much believe that. I used to have this conversation a lot with the Rams. When they went 9 years of trading first-round picks, if you put all your chips in and over a 5-year stretch, and in one of those years you get a Super Bowl title, great. You accomplish your goal. That's a special thing. The Bucs did that when they traded for Brady.
But only one team does it.
Only one team does it, and many don't. And the fact that the Eagles got one, okay, but you better get one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You better get one. If you push all your chips in, 4 out of 5 teams don't. I mean, Miami's in the midst of that right now. They're a disaster all of a sudden. The Saints have been doing it since Breeze. Browns with Watson. Those teams aren't winning Super Bowls, and they're going to lose bad on this deal.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the problem becomes
the Jets did it with Rodgers.
When guys like Jalen Carter, who they drafted in the first round of 2023, or Quinion Mitchell, or Cooper DeJean, their contracts are going to come up in between the time.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay them too. Or let them go.
I forget who I was listening to, but they were kind of touching on this with the Eagles. Kind of what's next, big picture. Like it won't happen this year. This year they're going to make another run for the Super Bowl, as they absolutely should. 2025.
The problem is, I mean, they don't have a lot of cap space. They've got 18 million in cap space, and they can't kick the can down the road any more than they already have.
But whoever brought it up basically said it wouldn't be crazy. You got your ring. What if you shopped A.J. Brown right now? You know what I mean? You recoup a first-round pick. You save all this cap space. It wouldn't be crazy. They won't do it this year, but they might do it 365 days from now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And good for them. Then you start over and you get a bunch of picks, and we'll see. And you got a trophy in your lobby. You know, that's great. But most teams, when you kick everything in, you don't get it.
There's also a chance you lose.
Right. And the Jets are an interesting one too. You start looking at their contracts. It's like they don't have a quarterback, and Adams is going to be gone, and you got to pay Sauce and Wilson and Hall and all these other dudes.
Assuming they want to stay.
Yeah. Does Quinn and Williams, who's a little older than those guys, say, I'm going to stick around for this, or am I going to do the Myles Garrett move and be
we just won
this is
3
terrible.
games. I don't want to win 3 games again.
Right. We just won 3 games with Rodgers. How many are we going to win with Tyrod Taylor or a 4th-round pick? And so I can be a better roster, but both our tackles are leaving.
In New York, and I got to face 250 media people every day asking me, hey, why do you guys stink?
Why do you guys stink all the time? Right. Why is it not getting better? League's tough.
That's why, when people say the Steelers are a joke or the Steelers are the worst, this or that, and people wonder why do you defend that? Because they're not.
No, they're not.
It's not even close.
Right. I mean, there are 2 ways of thinking, and some fan bases are fine with this. If I actually hit that number 1 out of 32, okay. But if you keep coming in 3rd, 6th, 32, 30, 31, 17, 10,
That's rough.
That's rough. I mean, some fan bases, and I'm sure some listeners would be like, I'll take it. I've seen the same thing here over and over. I'll take the peaks and valleys. You haven't had any valleys.
You've
never been through the valley of death.
You haven't seen what that looks like and how ugly that can get.
That's a long couple months, man.
You want to talk about people getting fired? That's when people get fired.
Oh, and even just you stop going to games and wearing bags on your heads. I mean, be the Giants for a while. I mean, it's bad. Be the Jags for a while, where you're always picking at the top.
Yeah. Not fun.
No, it's not.
Not fun. But that's why why we spend so much time talking about the draft and diving into the draft, because it is that important.
Oh, it's that important, yeah.
And so, this just drives that home even more so. Like, you want to be that team. You want to be that team that's at the top of the food chain right now.
Yeah.
Keep going on the same path that you're working on. Don't deviate from it.
No, right. And you got to evaluate talent well, of course. You can't miss on big picks. Obviously, that's true for all teams. But even like the Chiefs are interesting right now. If you would pull up drafthistory.com Chiefs and just look at their offensive picks, it's not very good. I mean, it's trusting an elite quarterback to elevate not so good tackles and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mecole Hardman. A lot of picks.
It's tough when you're picking that far down in the first round.
Everybody can pick. Kevin Colbert, right?
Everybody can pick the first 10 picks. We're working on looking at our mock drafts from last year that we did on the triple take, and I called it up today. I'm like, oh, we got the first 7 picks right. We got 9 in the first. We didn't miss a guy. We didn't take a guy who didn't get drafted in the first round until pick 23, and that was Cooper DeJean. Who was the 35th pick in the draft.
And he's a star. Yeah, right.
But, everybody can do that. But when you're picking at the end of that first round, like, that's where it gets tough.
Like, back to the Chiefs real quick. That's when you overpay for Jawan Taylor.
Yeah.
That's when you trade for Orlando Brown, because tackles don't exist at 30.
Jawan Taylor's like a $25 million cap hit next year.
Right. I mean,
he is bad.
Orlando Brown was a bad trade for them, too. Yeah. They gave up a lot for him because you can't draft Suamataia and hope he hits, because he's terrible as a rookie. You know, I mean, that's what the guys you get. Right.
Takes time.
I mean, the Steelers, with all respect to Max Starks, he's a 3rd-round pick, and he's one of the best ones they hit on. The Patriots didn't have elite tackles. What do I do at tackle? I don't have any cap space, I don't have any draft picks. Well, you're in trouble at tackle. They don't grow on trees.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, Field Yates has put together his first mock of the year.
Yeah.
And I thought we'd buzz through this one. It's a little interesting.
It is a little interesting. Field's a good dude. We overlapped at ESPN, and he's getting more and more with their draft stuff.
I do have to question his Steeler pick in this draft.
I saw it.
I don't think that's going to happen. But
right, but it's worth.
Yeah,
I like to see all angles. Right.
So he has the Titans taking Travis Hunter at 1.
I get the impression they're not going to go quarterback. I'm not sure that Sanders and Ward go in the top 2.
Here's the thing, though. I think somebody will trade up into that spot.
The Giants keep coming to mind. It's not that far to go. They're desperate. They're returning the same staff.
Yeah.
Go get your quarterback. We'll give it one more run. Maybe the Raiders. Somebody like that. Somebody in the top 10. I tend to think the Titans won't pick in the top at number 1.
Yeah. At 2, they have the Browns taking Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State.
Okay. I mean, there's a case that they're the best 2 players in the draft.
Yeah. And the Browns are just going to kick the can down the road. And we'll
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly think they're trying to win 0 games this year.
They might.
And
if they have to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson all season long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Saints are similar.
The Giants then take Cam Ward at 3. I think in this scenario they would trade up to make sure that they get him.
The other thing I think about this draft, the more I analyze it, is to go from 3 to 1 is cheaper this year than it was other years. You know, we'll give you a 2 or a future something. But it's not going to be backbreaking.
At 4, the Patriots take Will Campbell.
I'm fine with that. I mean, everyone says he's the best lineman in the draft, but he might not even be a tackle.
Yeah, you do. I mean, they need line help across the board.
So bad, right?
You got to protect Drake May.
I know, but I just wish that was Jonathan Ogden.
He got the snot beat out of him this year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying when we talked about this not being a great tackle draft. This is proof.
It's proof, right? And it's really not a top 10 overall draft.
Yeah,
all that I'm not that excited about.
Jacksonville then takes Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan.
It seems kind of chalky at this point, but I totally get it. I mean, that would be you'd be done with your D line, and that's a good place to start.
At 6, he has the Raiders
Real
take.
Quick, we talk about this through the Steeler lens, but I'm not so sure 30 other teams aren't going to watch that Super Bowl and be like, should I go D line or corner? D line.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why their D line was able to get home and create so much pressure is because the cornerbacks played well.
If it was last year's corners, that would have been so much different.
Yeah.
And I thought the Chiefs receivers, including Kelsey, were exposed. They were getting open quick.
I was asked that question on our YouTube channel. Why weren't the Steelers able to do that against the Chiefs? If you remember, Joey Porter Jr. didn't play when they played the Chiefs.
Yeah. Mahomes got it out quick, and they
didn't have your best cover corner.
Right. And again, that's really furthers the need for a second cover corner to me. With two of those guys, maybe it goes different, You're at least making them hold the ball.
At 6, he has the Raiders taking Shedeur Sanders.
All right. I mean,
this must be a different draft than the one I saw.
I sent you one. What was that
Maybe
from?
you sent me one, and that one had the Steelers taking Shedeur Sanders at 21.
I was trying to think where I got that from.
You see so many of these things.
Right, I know.
I don't see
It was
that.
somebody I liked, and I couldn't believe Sanders ended up with Pittsburgh at 21.
That's not going to happen.
No,
that was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, me too.
At 7, the Jets take Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia.
Sounds like he's really gaining steam. That's pretty much the clear number 2 edge.
Yeah. At 8, the Panthers take Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia.
Okay.
The Jets are a sneaky team that will be in.
I don't know what they're going to do. How are they going to view this season? Go get a quarterback? Maybe try to bring Sanders to New York?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I could see them moving.
Yeah.
To go, hey, look, we tried the old guy. Let's go get a guy.
They have cap space issues, but they're not like the Browns and Saints where they don't have a core still.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have good players that are young and in their prime. You're not going to trade all those guys.
Right. At 9, the Saints take Tedoroa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona.
They go any direction.
At 10, the Bears take Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas.
Okay. He's fine.
The 49ers then take Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State.
I think he's the one that's going to start to get pushed up.
Yeah.
Assuming his medicals go well in Indy, which I have no reason to assume that, but he's a tackle.
Yeah. And they get drafted early.
Yeah.
At 12, the Dallas Cowboys take Will Johnson.
Pretty good value there. They have more needs than you'd think, too.
Yeah. At 13, the Dolphins take Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama. Still, that's, again, early for a guard.
That's why I think the top of the draft's not that good. That all these people are mocking guards in the top 15 or so.
14, the Colts take Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State.
I can see him going higher than that, too. I mean, kind of like Bowers last year. There's a lot of landing spots where just give me the best football player.
Give me a weapon.
Right, right.
At 15, the Falcons take Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall.
Constant search for pass rush in Atlanta.
At 16, Arizona takes Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M.
You think he goes higher? I mean, just traits are pretty darn impressive.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And they did take Darius Robinson.
Yeah, they'll start to build some athletes with length, and, that would be the start of a good front.
At 17, the Cincinnati Bengals take Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
I would think they'd be after more of a heavier D tackle, but any D line, I mean, anything on defense makes sense.
We're one of these long, tall defensive ends.
Mm-hmm. That's their style.
At 18, the Seahawks take Armand Membo, the offensive lineman from Missouri.
Yeah, probably a guard, but they need it.
At 19, the Buccaneers take James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee.
Linebacker is also a big need for them, but that pick's almost definitely going to be defense.
Yeah, get linebackers later.
Mm-hmm.
At 20, the Broncos take Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State.
I think that's his floor.
Yeah.
I think Chicago's sneaky for him. Everyone talks about Dallas. I think Dallas has too many other needs. Like in the fantasy world, I'd love him to be a Bronco. I mean, that's a great spot for him.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, would you trade up to go get Ashton Genty? I'm not trading up for a running back in this draft.
No, I'm not trading up for a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's Bijan or Barkley, you can't.
At 21, Field Yates. I just want to make this clear. Field Yates has the Steelers taking Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss.
I know that he's hearing buzz like everybody. Dart's now in the first round. I have a problem with that, though. Maybe I'll change my tune and watch him more and say he could be the answer. Then fine. I just don't look at it and think that's the answer to compete with Burrow and Lamar.
I don't feel that way either. I think he has traits.
Yeah. but not extreme traits.
Yeah.
Like if I had Josh Allen traits and you're, really raw, okay, I'll buy that. But I'm not passing on a D lineman or corner or something with that pick.
Yeah. At 22, the Chargers take Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan.
Pretty chalky for the 22nd pick, too. I mean, the Michigan connection.
At 23, the Packers take Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky.
We ended up getting him in the second round in the mock yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those corners that need to – a lot of it has to do with, Revel and Benjamin. Are those guys healthy or not?
Right.
Are they ahead of him or not? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll know more maybe by the combine.
Medical stuff.
Yeah. At 24, the Vikings take Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon.
Okay.
At 25, the Texans take Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Missouri. That's only the second wide receiver.
Only two receivers, yeah. It's a weird receiver year.
Yeah.
I mean, even last year, I was analyzing the mock we did with Pursuta and just kind of remembering what we were thinking at the time and things like that. I mean, there was a big run of receivers in those late playoff teams. That's like when Keon Coleman and Pearsall and McConkey and those guys
get expensive.
Going. Yeah. I wonder if that's when you'll see Golden and Ibuka and those guys coming off the board finally. I don't know.
At 26, the Rams take Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Their left tackle's a free agent. Yeah.
27, the Ravens take Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia.
I don't know if they'll be afford to do that. That's such a Hamilton-like pick. But
who's playing on your offensive line?
You're going to lose an offensive lineman or two. I don't know that you can be taking another safety, but it's a Ravens-like pick.
Yeah. Somebody's got to play your offensive line, though. At 28, the Lions take Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
I guess Zeitler's up. I mean, I wouldn't think about O-line with them, but you keep a strength of strength. That's fine. At
29, the Commanders take Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State.
Their receivers other than McLaurin are really light. I mean, they have McConkey, but he didn't do anything as a rookie.
Yeah. At 30, the Bills take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan.
Okay. I mean, they have a lot of finesse D linemen, up the field guys. They could use some beef.
Yeah, they weren't great against the run this year.
No.
31, Kansas City takes Donovan Jackson, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. guard, offensive tackle.
I would think and they could be either for him.
Could be either, yeah.
It might be Trey Smith's replacement. That might be your left or right tackle. Yeah.
And
I would think it's going to be a heavy offensive offseason for Kansas City.
32, Philadelphia takes Jihad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama.
I don't think they'll do that.
I don't think they will either.
I mean, if they lost Bond, that's just philosophically against what they believe in. They will not take a linebacker in the first round.
In the first round.
I bet it's a D lineman because you're going to lose Williams or Sweat. I know Bond's up as well, but they'll value the D lineman more.
Even an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
You know, you can always juggle that
Becton's
around.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
So, if that were the case and the Steelers were targeting Jackson Dart, trying to get him on the dartboard.
Yeah. Bullseye.
You trade down.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a hard time taking him at 21. I mean, you have to be
way.
really sold that that's a special player. And maybe I'll change my tune between now and April, but just because the Senior Bowl was pretty good doesn't make
okay.
him. Yeah, I mean, just by default in a way. I feel like he's third by default.
Kinda.
Yeah. He's fine, but definitely would be a first rounder last year. No chance.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know that he'd be a first rounder next year.
Who would you have taken instead?
In that situation,
Barron? He didn't go. Grant?
who didn't go? Oh, Barron. Yeah, Jahdae Barron's there.
Yeah.
Like him a lot. Grant would have been a
choice
possibility.
of receivers.
Yeah, you pick there. I at that point, given what was off the board, I'd probably take Grant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Grant would have been my pick over Barron, just because he's 300+ pounds.
Right? Yeah. Give me the big guy.
Yeah.
Planet Theory.
He could pretty much complete your D line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably would have been my pick too.
Yeah,
you'd have a hard time convincing me to take Dart there. And at least today, maybe 3 weeks from now, I'll be like, okay, I'm warming up to him.
Yeah, I want to see him let's see him throw against the guys at the combine. See how that looks. Let's see how the interviews go.
Special traits. I see good plus traits. I just don't see special traits.
Yeah, he's more to me of a second round guy. I can't see taking him at 21.
Right.
Just because.
Just because you need a quarterback.
Yeah,
that's bad business.
Like if you wanted to even trade up in the second round to make sure that you got him, if you loved him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a real different. That's a totally different world.
Yeah.
You took Grant and then you traded up and gave up a future decent pick. Okay, I see taking that bite of the apple. That's like trading up for Levis.
Yeah.
It didn't work necessarily for the Titans, but that's not a terrible process, and they can get out of that.
Again, Jalen Hurts was a second round draft pick.
Yeah.
But I'm not spending a first round draft pick again within a 4-year period of each other on a guy that might not be the guy.
And at that point too, you definitely gave somebody money going into that draft too. You're not necessarily even getting the cheap quarterback room for a year or two.
Yeah.
And Fields or Wilson's not going to sign a 1-year deal.
Right. You're going to sign him to at least a 2, and see where it goes. But you're going to give yourself some flexibility here, and I don't know that you take that bite out of the apple in this particular draft at this spot.
Right.
Later in the draft, okay,
you pick up an extra
fine.
third or whatever, and you're going to hit day 2 heavier. And some teams it's worth it. If you're closer and you just say, I want a super cheap quarterback room. Okay. I get the economics of that in some teams and some builds, but not here now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's get to a break. That was Field Yates mock draft. We're going to get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app. Get it there, and all the other great content that's on there. We'll be starting up our triple takes here very soon. Oh,
yeah, real soon. Yeah.
Diving
Next week,
even
right?
deeper into the draft than what we do on the show. And, that, of course, leads to some stuff that we do on the show.
Yeah.
And you can watch on YouTube.
Boy, the combine's right around the corner, too.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that. But things really start to heat up now that the Super Bowl is over. And Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, the Saints have made the last official hire of the head coaching cycle, assuming nothing else happens at this point.
Right. I think it's safe to say that we know the 32 at this point.
So it's Kellen Moore.
That's
kind of an uninspiring hire.
That's the word I was going to use, too. I mean, did a little homework on him, and not that any of this was new, but like he played 6 years in the league. He had 1 year that he actually threw a pass. I mean, he's a backup future coach.
But there's a lot of those guys around the league.
That's not a knock on him. I'm not giving him a hard time one bit. But Dallas keeps him on staff after he retires or can't play anymore, and moves up really quickly, really. I mean, the fact that he's been a coordinator 3 different places, well, a coordinator or better in 3 different spots already, Philly, Chargers, did well with the Cowboys. He's doing some things great, but I don't look at him as like this Shanahan schemer that is going to change the world, or maybe he's a fine leader of men, but he doesn't have a lot of experience doing it. I mean, it wasn't that long ago he was a player.
It leads me to this question, and we see this with a lot of these guys around the league. Kevin O'Connell, former backup quarterback. This guy, I mean,
there's tons of them.
We can go on down the list. And you talk about the minority hiring stuff. Is that going to be something here? We've seen, obviously, some guys getting hired at the collegiate level, including Mike Vick just got a job as a college coach. Some of these backup quarterbacks, why aren't they getting this opportunity at the NFL level?
I don't know. That's a good question. There's been so many. I mean, Jason Garrett and Frank Reich. I mean, they're long-term backup quarterbacks to star. Jim Kelly and Aikman's backups, and that decide I'm a better coach than quarterback. Maybe that is the next level. That we'll start seeing more minority backup quarterback future head coaches.
I mean, we're seeing more and more minority quarterbacks in the league, and so that would be
still what's behind.
Yeah,
I mean that it should be, of course.
But, I mean, the big step to being a head coach in the NFL is on the offensive side of the ball.
You could develop quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right. That's a great start.
And that's one of the things when people talk about Mike Tomlin's coaching tree, it's all about the offensive side of the ball when you're looking for these kind of jobs. And quite frankly, I mean, Bruce Arians did go on to become a head coach.
Yeah.
But some of the Randy Fichtner wasn't going to go become a head coach. Todd Haley had been a head coach.
Right.
And that wasn't going to happen again for him.
No, that ship probably sailed,
he was in the process of suing the Chiefs and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
it
was messy, right.
Kind of made it toxic for him. It's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is with some of the hiring stuff, but we had one minority hiring at the head coach level.
With the Jets, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, there should be more. I don't know how to comment on it. I mean, is the Rooney Rule, I don't want to say a failure, but does it need re-looked at?
I don't know what you
can do. Like the Patriots was a joke. Like they bring in 2 guys that are both minorities, knowing Vrabel's going to get the job. Right.
That's the whole reason they fired the
people don't even want to get on a plane to do that.
They fired Mayo, knowing we fired Mayo because Vrabel's available.
Right?
Yeah,
and he happens to be a white dude. So I don't know. I mean, I do think a cool thing that the league's doing, like the Niners have really benefited from this, is when a minority gets hired from your organization, you get comp picks, which is a really nice situation for the Niners. Been the ones who got the most. So if I'm torn, I'm going to hire a minority GM or assistant GM or whatever.
There were some
at least it gives them more opportunity.
Yeah, for example, like when David Culley got hired as the head coach of the Texans. First of all, nobody thought David Culley was going to be the head coach.
We knew that was the ultimate placeholder head coach too.
He had been with the Ravens for a year. David Culley was a long-time NFL assistant coach. The Ravens didn't develop him as a coach.
No.
Or anything of the sort. He was a receivers coach for the Steelers back in the early 2000s.
And a good position coach, obviously, right.
But they just hired him. Well, let's just hire a guy. He wants the job.
Nobody wanted
the job.
That was the Texans were a disaster.
But the Ravens got 2 third-round picks for it.
Yeah. In some way, I think that's unfair. I just think it's all not perfect.
I just don't know that that's necessarily the answer to make this happen. But
or the Rooney Rule for that.
You also can't. You also there's no quotas in place for this. We have to have this number. You have to hire this. And no, that's that can't ever be the situation. But I just wonder what the league can do, and maybe it is placing more of an emphasis on some minority hiring at the offensive coordinator or quarterbacks coach level.
We know these things move at a glacier's pace, unfortunately, but I wonder, Josh Johnson, back up for a million years. He's the Josh McCown that's done it forever. Does a team look at him if he wants to be a coach and say, you have a lot of experience with young athletic quarterbacks, why don't you be the mentor and be the offensive coordinator? Or at
least the quarterback's coach,
as opposed to the pocket passer type or whatever. You're the quarterback coach. I don't know. I mean, it's in flux. One thing they do well that's changed sort of recently is like Senior Bowl. They'll have a lot of advantages,
right?
Usually from minority coaches. Here's exposure. You write a practice script for the whole week. You be the head guy for a whole week. The whole world's watching. Great job. That's okay. He's capable of doing it. Great.
Yeah.
At least it's a proving ground.
Absolutely. And they have, they have the minority hiring clinics and things of that nature, acceleration clinics, where you make these guys visible to the owners. Because, again, if the guy has never played in your system or it wasn't a part of your franchise,
right?
So much of the coaching stuff is
the minority stuff aside. I think the coaching cycle is so screwed up.
Yeah,
a lot of them they use a committee. Like the Jets just hire this committee to go get your head coach. And the other thing that's so messed up too is the timing's so bad. Like example, the Lions, they know they're losing both coordinators. They got a game to practice for that week, or
it's really kind of unfair to those teams.
It's awful,
and
right?
They did push it back. And change some of those rules so that if you're in the playoffs, you can't do in-person interviews and things of that nature. But it's still time-consuming to do a Zoom interview.
I mean, even just look over the last, 3, 4, 5 years of the Chiefs. They've been the best team in the league over the last 6 years. We know that. They haven't been pillaged that much because you can't pillage them till now. I mean, it's too late in the process.
Teams just aren't willing to wait.
I'm not going to wait because if I hire you, there's no one for you to build a staff with because everyone's good's hired.
Honestly, I think
the whole thing's a mess.
I think they should have to wait until after the Super Bowl.
But everybody would tamper.
I still think they should have to wait until after the Super Bowl. You can know
every coaching hire.
You can know who you want to hire, but just slow your process down a little bit. You can have an agreement.
I thought about that too. I just figured everyone would cheat, and they might. But
at the same time, if you had to wait,
this great running back coach that needs to get a job at least could say, "Well, I'm going to have 3 teams call me, not one."
Yeah.
There's such a human element to it that I don't know. The whole coaching cycle timeline is bad.
Yeah,
it's far from perfect.
It's unfair to the teams that are in the get to the conference championship game. Even
I mean, imagine being one of the Lions coordinators that week. I mean, you're interviewing those guys who got interviewed by everybody.
Or if you wanted to wait to the week in between the Super Bowl or something like that, that at least gives those guys that opportunity to.
Yeah,
nobody's getting hired until after the conference championship games. There's a dead week in between. Yeah. This day you can do interviews, or these 2 days.
It's like when free agency opens or whatever. The buzzer sounds at 4:00 on Tuesday or whatever, and you still have an idea that Cousins is going to Atlanta or whatever too. But I mean, the terrible teams that are out of it, the Patriots and these teams, they can build their staff while people are preparing for the playoffs.
Yeah,
and it doesn't always work out their favor, but you'd think it would. I don't know. It's all kind of a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, that's the big news of the day. We're going to get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and this is hour number 2 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, Dane Brugler has come out with his top 100 players in this. And, of course, you can follow Dane at The Athletic. He does great work there, puts out the Beast every year. We'll have him
he's digging in heavy.
Join us at the Combine as he does every year.
Nail him down, yeah.
But let's get into his top 100 here. We'll hit the high points here.
Yeah, we don't need to comment on 100 different players, but right.
The top 10 is Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, 3 for him.
Yeah, he seems to really be picking up steam.
Mason Graham at 4.
Okay, safe.
Ashton Genty at 5.
If you're doing a top list, I mean, he needs to be
the first offensive player.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you count Hunter. Yeah, right.
6 is Will Campbell.
I think that's underwhelming. I mean, his best O lineman.
7 is Tedero McMillan.
Okay.
8, Armand Membo.
I saw that, and I was a little shocked that he was that high. Some people seem to adore him.
9 is Shamar Stewart.
Okay. Traits.
10 is Tyler Warren.
That's fine with me. I mean, I think maybe he's not the 10th pick in the draft, but he's one of the top 10 prospects.
What
like
you
Genty.
don't see there are any of the quarterbacks.
And the quarterbacks. So these are just ranks, what grade you have on them. And I would argue, I bet most years a lot of those guys wouldn't even be in the top 10. It's not a great, elite part of the draft.
That used to be the case. When the Steelers took Kenny Pickett in the first round a few years ago, everybody's, I can't believe there's no more quarterbacks in the first round. That used to happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like it wasn't a regular, occurrence that quarterbacks get pushed way up the board until really the last decade.
More and more.
Yeah.
My point, though, is the 10 names you just listed, I don't know that a lot of them would be in the top 10 last year, the year before, the year before. It's not a great
They're
top
good
of the
players.
draft.
They're not
right,
great players.
Right. I mean, is McMillan the player Jamar Chase was coming out? I don't think so,
No. He has Colston Loveland at 11, so two tight ends in the top 11. Mike Green at 12, Will Johnson at 13, Malachi Starks at 14. We finally get to our first quarterback at 15, Cam Ward.
Ward's his favorite?
Yeah.
Good. I tend to agree with Dane, and I think he's one of the best evaluators out there.
And he didn't cheat. He didn't put Shadur Sanders right after him.
Mm-hmm. That's a common trick.
Yeah, you don't get to Shadur Sanders. He's Josh Simmons at 17, Tyler Booker at 18, Derek Harmon at 19, 20 is
I need
Luther
to reevaluate Harmon.
I need to look more at him, too.
Right.
I wasn't overwhelmed.
I wasn't what I've seen of him, but, boy, a lot of people have him in this neighborhood.
I mean, he's got the traits. He's 6'5", 310 pounds. And
I mean, if we love Nolan, is he similar? Maybe. I wish he had been Senior Bowl.
Yeah. James Pierce at 21, Kelvin Banks at 22, so another offensive tackle there. But, again, I'm not overwhelmed by this.
I mean, he's a first-round player, but he's not – I don't think he's an alt or somebody like that. I'd rather throw Tanu.
Yeah. Jihad Campbell at 23, Egba at 24, Shadur Sanders all the way down at 25.
I don't think that's crazy.
I don't think it is either.
I mean, from what I've seen of him, I would definitely take 3 and maybe all 6 first-round quarterbacks last year over him.
Here's the thing. Dane lists his height and weight at 6'1", 198.
Under 200's a little – you take a beating over a 17-plus game schedule.
Especially when you're not – he's not Jalen Milroe.
Oh,
he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not going to run on.
He's not even a runner. Plus athlete in terms of running. I mean, he's
a pocket quarterback. Right. He's Tua.
I think he's Breeze. I mean, Tua. Exactly. Great call.
Kenneth Grant comes in at 26.
Okay. I mean, I think that's the neighborhood where you start considering him around 21.
Yeah. Matthew Golden at 27. Nick Emuwari at 28.
Mm-hmm.
Walter Nolan at 29.
Okay. Yeah.
30.
I don't know the negatives on Nolan.
I've seen some stuff that says he's off his feet too much.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll pay attention to that.
Yeah. Donovan Ezeroku at 30. 31 is Josh Connerly. And then 32, Siobhan Ravel.
Okay. Some of those corners are worth considering from 21 into the second round.
Yeah, Siobhan Ravel's big enough to ride the ride.
He fits what they're looking for.
Just missing were Tyleek Williams, Donovan Jackson, Caleb Johnson. That's his second running back.
That's number 2 running back for him, huh?
Amarian Hampton right after him at 36. So 3 running backs in the top 36.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few in his top 100.
Yeah. Mason Taylor, the third tight end, is at 37.
That's pretty high for Mason Taylor, but I was really impressed with Senior Bowl, and the more I watch him, I like him a lot.
Gray Zabel comes in at 38. Elijah Rojo at 39, so 4 tight ends in his top 39.
It's making a push for running back, his best position in this draft.
Yeah. Jahdae Barron at 40. What's that?
Well, if you could get him at 40?
His 4th cornerback?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you could trade down from 21 to 29 and still get Barron? Oh, now you're talking. He fills a lot of needs.
He's for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to take a defensive back. Takes the ball away.
Yeah.
Plays inside, plays outside,
Versatile.
plays some safety.
Yeah. He'd fit in real well here.
Yeah, he'll tackle. Tua Maloa at 41. Azirie Thomas at 42.
Mm-hmm.
Again, 6'2" cornerback.
Yeah, right.
Carson Schlesinger at 43. Jack Sawyer at 44. Somebody on the message board asked me about Jack Sawyer. Why don't they take Jack Sawyer? Maybe it was on Twitter, one of the two. I'm like, he's 6'4", 271 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's Aaron Smith.
He would have to put on 20 pounds to play in this defense, and I don't know that his body
and it's
type,
a different style of play.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's what he is.
He would be an edge. He's Mike Vrabel.
Yes. I mean, if you drafted him, it's because you need edge help. And I don't know if he's twitchy enough for the Steelers' edge guys. And I don't want a project that I have to put 20 pounds on to make him Aaron Smith. Yeah. I mean, Aaron Smith's a 5th-round pick. Kiesel was a 7th.
Yeah. Same thing with Landon Jackson.
Right.
He has a 45. He's 6'6", 273. I think he's actually 6'5" when he came in at the Senior Bowl. But he's a 4.3 end.
He's a 4.3 end. I mean, I don't know that he has he's kind of a narrow waist. I don't know if he has the girth to really be Cam Hayward, that's for sure. Stephon Tuitt.
Yeah. He has Alfred Collins at 47.
Yeah. I'm warming up to him. I mean, he played behind 2 great defensive tackles last year, Sweat and Murphy, and then he had a really good year. He could be a slightly discounted Kenneth Grant for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jaden Higgins at 48.
What do you think about him in the 2nd round? Basketball player,
I like
smooth,
him. I see
big.
I see some Drake London type.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
There.
Yeah, I think I'd have little hesitation to use the 2nd round.
Yeah, there's not. He doesn't get the separation, but
but that's okay.
He makes the acrobatic catches and
he's a smooth
goes up
mover
over
too.
top of people. And
I think he was a pretty accomplished point guard, and you can kind of see that.
Travion Henderson at 49.
I don't think he's for the Steelers, but I kind of wish he was because he's a home run hitter and he's an explosive player.
He's not tiny, though.
He's not tiny. No,
he's
not
5'10", 208.
Right.
I mean, he's got some
I wonder
size
what
to
their
him.
cutoff is in terms of a back they would use a day 2 pick on, size-wise.
He's more Willie Parker type size-wise.
Yeah. And that might be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if Warren and him are both healthy or a third guy's okay,
Ariante Ursary at 50. Let's see here. Who else jumps on me? Nick Scourton all the way down at 53 for him.
I think people worry that he's a tweener, and that used to be. It kind of is.
Yeah.
Forever that was a terrible connotation. Then it was like, oh, he's versatile. But you got to line him up somewhere every snap.
Right.
And if he's not good at either, I don't know what to do with him.
Maxwell Hairston's at 54.
It's another 2nd-round target for sure.
Benjamin Morrison at 55.
Who knows?
I wonder if he were healthy, if he would be higher than that.
Has to be.
Yeah. Shamar Turner at 56.
What do you think of him? I don't think he's a massive difference maker.
I don't think he is either. That's my problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking 3rd round and you haven't gone D-line yet, okay, he's a consolation prize, but we've never even considered him in a mock.
No.
And that's why I was bringing up the name, because body type isn't far off from what you're looking
body
for.
type's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that he plays the position with the pass rush ability that you would want.
Or the Cam physicality, or, the power, right.
57 is Jackson Dart. So that is his 3rd quarterback, but at 57.
But at 57. I mean, if there's 50 better players than him, I'm not taking him in the 1st round.
No. 58, Jalen Royals.
Coming along.
I like him.
I'm excited to watch him at the Combine.
59, Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't like seeing it because I don't want the whole world to start taking him in round 3.
It kind of verifies what I saw watching him, though.
Yep. The only knock on the guy is he's older. I mean,
he's older and he was hurt a lot.
And he was hurt
in college.
A lot. Right.
Because that's the one thing I talked to some people, and not people within any organization. But some of the scouts or some of the amateur scouts I talked to down in I guess not amateur, they do get paid to do it, but for publications.
Guys that are in it,
when I talked to them at the Senior Bowl, I'm like, what about the Shuck kid? He looks like the best quarterback here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but he's older, and
that's not a negative.
This was the first time that he's really put together a full season. I'm like, but
didn't we say the same thing about Bo Nix?
He was really good, though.
Right. And he's got all kinds of ability.
Yeah.
He wasn't a 1-star recruit.
He's 6'5", he's 224, he's athletic. Like
everyone thought he was Justin Herbert. When he was 17. I mean, I know that was 100 years ago, but. I mean, if you're talking about Dart in the top of the 2nd or him in the 3rd or 4th, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
He's my favorite target. I don't love him seeing being this high on this list. Not that you're going to pull the wool over NFL teams' eyes, but
60 is TJ Sanders.
Okay.
Jalen Milroe at 61.
His story's not yet written either, but I got to be honest, I didn't love the small hands stuff that I didn't know pre-Senior Bowl.
He's got Jordan James, the running back out of
I'm glad you
Oregon,
brought him up.
At 62.
I didn't know much about him, but he's not easy to bring down. He's a little bit bigger than I thought he was. The highest I've seen him ranked. Okay. I mean, that's one more back to consider. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cameron Williams, the offensive tackle out of Texas at 63. Your guy, Gunnar Helm, at 64.
I didn't know he was my guy.
Huh?
I don't dislike him, but
I thought he was your guy.
I haven't stood on the table for him.
Okay.
He's a smooth athlete, though. Good after the catch. I mean, I don't dislike him.
Okay.
More finesse guy, though. He's kind of high cut.
Marcus Mumbow out of Purdue all the way down at 66.
Yeah.
Pure guard.
Pure guard.
Darius Alexander at 67.
I'll gladly take him at 67.
Yeah. He fits the type.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Big, heavy hammer hands, right.
Let's see here. Who else jumps out here? Quinshawn Junkins at 70.
That's about the neighborhood. You started looking at a guy like that. I mean, I don't have a problem with him there.
Yeah, the guy from on NFL.com
had him in the first round.
Had
the
Steelers,
right?
the Steelers taking him in the first round. I'm like, no,
can't do that.
We're not even going to justify that.
No, that's a terrible
mock draft with any kind of talk on the show. Jalen Noel at 72.
I'm involved. I mean, he's a little smaller than I like, but he's another.
He's thick enough.
He's not finesse.
No, he's a good sized receiver. Jordan Phillips out of Maryland at
he's one of my new
73.
Crushes. I think he's a nose.
I think he is too.
All kinds of upside. He's not a fat guy. He's powerful. Yeah, he's starting to just put it together this year too.
He's got that thick waist.
Yeah,
legs
tree trunk.
Yeah,
I'm really warming up to him quickly.
Jack Betch at 74.
Okay, he might not test great.
That's fine.
Catches
everything. Yeah.
Right.
Prince Yu all the way down at 75.
Really, a lot of edge guys.
Yeah. Dion Walker at 76. He's not really from. I mean, at this point, a third round pick, okay,
maybe.
Yeah.
If you get shut out in the first 2 rounds, and that's all you can do.
But I don't know that he can play nose in the NFL.
I know. I like your McCullers call. I'd rather have him than Daniel
He's
McCullers.
a more athletic Daniel McCullers.
No question. And his best reps are better. But, man, there's some ones where he just stands straight up and just a tree trunk there. Yeah. And they don't even line him up in nose, like you said.
Right. Quincy Riley, the other Louisville cornerback, is at 77.
This isn't a bad spot for corners, too. There's 4 or 5 in this neighborhood that, okay.
Omar Norman Lott at 78.
Mm-hmm. I think he fits the bill. I'd rather have an Alexander, but I don't think he's far off.
Yeah. Let's see here. Dylan Sampson comes in at 80.
We think he's big enough?
I don't think he is.
I don't think
he's
he
5'11", 201.
Right.
He's got the speed that you want.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely. I don't think he's for the Steelers, but he could be a good pro.
Ozzie Trapillo at 81.
I bet he goes higher. Pure tackle with pretty good tape.
There's
some stiffness there, but
let's see here. Who else jumps out? Will Howard at 84.
I bet he goes even earlier. I could see him being mid-third rounder, something like that.
Yeah. Jacob Parrish, the cornerback out of K-State at 86.
I saw that name, and I was like, I didn't equate him that high.
They've got 2 corners in this draft that are right in that range.
Right in that range. That's kind of why I brought it up when you mentioned Riley, that there's some dudes in the 60 to 90 neighborhood where, okay.
Josh Farmer at 88.
I'm all in at that price.
Yeah.
Right. And that seems to be kind of the going rate. He's a nose. Nose fall.
Right. Tez Johnson out of Oregon at 89. He's too small.
I can't get
5'9", 156 pounds. He's even smaller than Calvin Austin.
He's too Atwell size. Small. I mean, he's too little.
Yeah.
If you didn't have anyone on your roster like that, maybe.
Well, you could. Yeah, you could find ways to use that, but you've already got one.
Yeah, and Austin's not big either.
We've already got
one.
Or
not Austin. I told him we already got one.
I told him we already got one.
I mean, Wilson's already smaller too. Is the name of it? Yeah.
90 is Alec Yemenor.
At that price too?
I'd take that at that price. Yeah.
Possession guy, but catches everything too.
6'2", 210 pounds. Yeah, you can find a
not the most explosive, but okay.
Power wide receiver. Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal.
That's 91. Another one that I'm thinking more and more about.
He's big enough.
I'm just a little late to the party on him, but he could be a Steeler.
Good sized guy.
Yeah.
Trey Amos all the way down at 93.
I was shocked how low he was. I don't know what the knock on him is, but there's a lot of these 6-foot corners that are late day 2.
Yeah. Isaiah Bond at 94.
He's a little small for me,
5'11",
too.
180, little light.
Had kind of a down year.
R.J. Harvey out of, was he, South Florida?
He's Central.
Central, yeah. The Central. They hate all those Florida schools. South, Central.
Yeah.
And they're not where they're supposed to be. South Florida's in Orlando. That's not South Florida.
That's not South at all, yeah. He might be too small for me, too.
Yeah,
explosive
5'7", 207. So he's put together, but he's short.
I don't know that he's Najee's replacement.
Yeah, right. Vertically challenged. Kobe Bryant, the other, the Kansas cornerback, 6 foot, 175.
I wonder what he weighs in at the combine. He might do the old trick where he weighs in at 185 and doesn't run.
Put some rocks in his pocket. He's really thin-waisted. Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas at 97.
I need to find out which safeties are highly slot capable.
He is highly slot capable.
I know he's one of them, but
he didn't do it as much this year, I don't believe, as he did in previous years, but he had been their primary slot.
Him aside, or him, whatever, I mean, would you consider that player, that prototype, a safety that's a big slot in round 3? Is that the earliest you'd think about it? I can't do it in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Yeah, I think 3's a little rich.
Darian Porter all the way down at 99.
Traits. Long, fast.
6'2", 197 cornerback with long arms.
Yeah. It's a good start.
Yeah. And then his number 100 player is Chris Paul Jr.
Linebacker.
At Ole Miss. Linebacker, 6'1", 235.
Not a lot of linebackers in that top 100.
Not a lot.
I wish there were more because we'd like to see them get scooped up and push other positions down.
Yeah, but a lot of
corners on that list.
A lot of corners, a lot of defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Quite a few running backs.
Absolutely. There was 5 or 6 tight ends in the top 100.
And you see what we're talking about with the wide receivers. Like, it's not last year's draft. It's not the year before that draft. There's some good ones. I don't know that there's a great wide receiver in this draft.
I know.
I think it's a bunch of guys whose ceiling is to be a number 2.
Agreed. Which brings me to one other topic I wanted to talk about either today or sometime this week. Deebo Samuel. Does he interest you? What I didn't know until today, I mentioned I do a podcast with a Niners guy. He is so friendly contract. He's only like a $1.1 million cap hit this year. It's only a 1-year rental. I don't think he'd cost, we thought maybe a 5, 4 at most. I mean, I'd kick the tires on it.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of wear and tear.
A lot of wear and tear on the tires. You might have to send him to Midas or somewhere.
Right. And does he want an extension? I don't know. Probably, but that's doable.
That's probably why he doesn't
29 this year.
Yeah, that's probably why he doesn't want to be in San Francisco anymore. He's like, look, if you're not going to give me an extension, let me go now.
Yeah. So I can make the move. I think he's interesting.
No, I would certainly be interested.
Yeah.
I'd want to see the medicals.
Absolutely. But I bet some of the listeners are thinking, he'd probably cost you a day 2 pick. I don't think he would. I don't think it is.
Yeah. I think they get some cap issues. I mean, you talk about his cap hit.
It costs. One thing they have at their advantage, from what I understand, is them trading him now doesn't do it. He's not going to get cut.
Right.
It's not one of those Cooper Kupp situations.
But he
was very favorable to his new team cap wise.
Yeah, his cap hit is only 2025 is $15.8 million for them.
For them.
Yeah.
I think there's a bonus coming up.
There is $31 million dead cap space for him if they get rid of him. For them.
Right. But I think he's going to get moved. That's their problem.
Right, yeah. But the base salary is $1.17.
For the new team, it's pretty attractive. So I
Their
might
problem
give you
is
higher.
They have a bunch of voidable years, the voidable year stuff on.
Tons.
They got 4 years of voidable years on his contract after this, which is why he's so cheap.
That's why he's so cheap.
Yeah.
Right. But he's attractive to the new team.
Right. The out for them, again, is $31 million against the salary cap.
Not only did they draft Pearsall, but they drafted one, I think, in the 4th round, too.
Yeah. Now, they could make that a post-June 1st situation.
They don't have to be quick about it.
Right.
Which makes you think if the asking price is a 5, maybe you pay a 4. I mean, the Niners have a little more cards in the negotiation.
I think as well, you could wait until after the draft and approach that and make it and after a June 1st thing, that would allow them to split that cap hit in 2, basically. It would take a lesser hit this year.
Yeah.
And you make it a pick for next year based on it's a 5 now, but if he plays this much or if he does this,
many balls
it's
or whatever.
a 4.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'd rather have him firmed up pre-draft, if I'm the Steelers.
Well, you could have the talks.
You could have the talks.
You could have everything in place.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, we're going to do this June 1st. And
yeah. I didn't know till this morning how attractive his contract is for the new team. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. So, yeah,
That's the beauty of it, right?
They're not going to re-sign him after this year.
No. I mean, there's actually talk that they're going to make McCaffrey.
That's why they drafted Pearsall.
Right. And they were to make McCaffrey the Deebo wide back, they call it, too, and draft a running back. To extend McCaffrey's career.
No, I mean, he's a good football player.
It'd help you. Yeah, right. If he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy.
Right.
So, we'll see.
And he's not for everyone.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to a break. That was Dane Brugler's Top 100. Matt and I are going to be back right after this with Power Ranking Tuesday.
What? Okay.
How about that?
Wow.
Postseason
Last
Power
one ever.
Ranking. We'll get into that one. That will be the rankings going into the offseason here. See where the Steelers come in at on that on NFL.com. Right after this on The Drive. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, Eric Edholm has come out with his latest and last power rankings for the 2024 season and moving into 2025. So let's get to that and see where everybody comes down here. At 32, he has the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. So I'm glad he's not just mimicking the draft order. I mean, the Browns are in a lot worse shape than the Titans.
Yeah.
A lot worse shape. And I doubt I haven't looked at these, but like I'd have the Saints 31. If we're talking about like where you're at right now, just because you won a couple games doesn't mean you're in good shape.
Well, I don't know that I have the Saints ahead of the Titans.
I'm not sure how I would do this.
Because who's the Titans quarterback? Like the Saints could go back into next season with Derek Carr quarterback.
Right. And then all of a sudden you've a couple wins, right?
At 31, though, he does have the Titans.
Okay. I mean, they're in bad shape as it stands.
Yeah. 30, he has the Giants.
Giants worse than the Patriots? I mean, you may.
Yeah.
I mean,
who's the Giants quarterback?
Right.
I don't know.
There's who's the Jets quarterback? I mean, there's a lot of real questionable situations.
At 29, though, he has the Jaguars.
Ooh, I'd have them higher.
I'd have them higher than that.
They have pieces.
Yeah.
They have a quarterback. I mean, he might not be what he's cracked up to be, but he's a lot better than what the Titans are playing with. I mean, that's for sure. No, I'd have them higher.
At 28 are the Saints.
They're in dismal shape.
Yeah. 27 are the Raiders.
Okay. I think there is some optimism for the first time in a while.
Who's
but that's
their quarterback,
though?
though?
That's going to be a long project, but at least Carroll.
They better hope it's not that
involved.
long because Pete Carroll's not going to be around forever.
Would that be a Darnold team for you?
Yeah, I think
that's a good fit.
Yeah. 26 is the Patriots.
There's optimism, but they're bad right this second.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much you balance that.
25, the Jets.
They have some good players, but they got a lot of questions. You need tackles and quarterbacks. And
he has the Jets as a possible Justin Fields landing spot.
I would consider that if I were them. I mean, I'd rather do that than like a Winston.
24, the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, they're trending in the right direction. I think the offense is close to being set.
I don't know about set, but
close
better
to
than
respectable.
Yeah. 23, the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh. I don't like anything that organization's done in a while.
They're paying a lot of money for three guys, and
yeah, I don't know how dedicated they are to winning.
22, the Bears.
Okay, let's see if Johnson's everything he's cracked up to be. They got a lot of resources. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a good player. I don't know if he'll be the best quarterback in the league, but I think he'll be a good player.
Ain't Jaden Daniels.
No, that's for sure. I'd rather May than him, too.
21, the San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh, I'd be kinder to them than that. They have questions, but that's pretty low. Like, I took a peek at the future Super Bowl odds, and they were like 10th.
Yeah, but that's
a different world.
That's a completely different world. What if
capable.
Trent Williams is done?
I think he will be.
Okay.
Right.
Now what? Now you don't have a left tackle.
No.
And that was the foundation of your offense there. You don't have that.
I know.
And
you don't have the D-line
rotation.
rotation.
You're not finding one of those guys in this draft.
I mean, I think they'll take one at 10 or 11 or wherever they pick.
Go
but it's not Trent
Ronnie
Williams.
Stanley. Yeah.
I mean, it's not Trent Williams, obviously.
It's not. And McCaffrey's a year older. He couldn't play this year because of Achilles issues. Those don't go away necessarily.
No. Deebo won't be back. Is Purdy an elevator? I mean, I think there's
Hufanga could be gone. I mean, there's some pieces that like
I
they're
know,
going to take some hits.
They are. I just thought last year couldn't have went worse for them. That I think they'll be in competition to win that division.
I don't know about that.
I just don't think Seattle or the Rams are that much better, or Arizona.
I think the Rams are.
Do you?
Yeah, especially if Stafford comes back.
Well, Stafford comes back.
Which that's the way it looks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're markedly better, but I think they're better.
I'm a big McVay guy.
Well, let's see who they have right ahead of them.
Okay.
At 20 are the Colts.
I would have the Niners ahead of the Colts. I would assume the Colts are going to have Richardson and nothing else. The more it's cute for us to say, oh, they'll sign Fields, and Fields is going to be more demand than go be a backup to Richardson.
Yeah.
You know?
They could sign like Daniel Jones or someone like that.
Yeah. I don't know what Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones might have somewhat of a market.
Well,
less than Fields.
If I were a quarterback, and
it's an attractive spot.
I'm looking at what Anthony Richardson has done in his first couple of seasons in the NFL. I'm like, I'm better than that. I can beat this guy out.
I'm going to lose every benefit of the doubt to
And they
him.
got pieces.
Oh, they got pieces. They got a line. They got an offensive-minded coach.
Running back who's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I like some stuff they have going.
Like, and Richardson hasn't been shown that he can stay healthy.
No.
All I need to do is get in there and be better than Joe Flacco was over a long stretch.
I just don't know who that quarterback is. There's not many of them on the market.
At 19, the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm fine with that.
18 are the Dolphins.
I think they're going the wrong way.
I think so,
I don't
too.
think Tyreek Hill's going to be a Dolphin.
Well, if you remember, when his first power rankings came out last year, Dolphins were a top 10 team.
Mm-hmm.
They're going the wrong way.
They're going the wrong way.
The Jets were a top 10 team.
Right.
Those teams are headed the wrong direction.
We mentioned this yesterday. I mean, the Bills can moonwalk through that division next year.
Yeah. 17 are the Cardinals.
Slowly going the right direction. It wasn't built overnight.
16 are the Seahawks.
Okay. They have massive cap problems, though.
They do.
You know what I mean? But I think they got a good young coaching staff, and I'm a Geno believer. I'd like to see him add some kind of quarterback that's young.
15 are the Bengals.
So there's been more and more talk that Burrow and company are really pushing for Higgins.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's not talk. I mean, he's openly stumped for it.
Yeah, it. If I'm them, is your best approach just be awesome on offense and be not the worst defense in the league, be the 25th best defense, 22nd best defense?
This would be the discussion I would have with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, we tried it your way, what you want to do this past season, and we went 9-8. And we weren't good enough to beat any good team.
Despite you playing great.
Yeah. You couldn't put a better season together, and that's what it got us.
It feels a little like it's going down the Carson Palmer path.
That's what I would say. Joe, we did this with Carson Palmer, and it didn't work out.
And Carson eventually said,
I want out of here.
And I think Joe might say that in a year or two, too.
So, Joe, we can't spend all this money on offense. We have to spend some money on defense. We have to use draft picks. We can't let Trey Hendrickson walk.
They're going to cut some starters, though, on D.
That's all well and good, but you got to replace them.
I don't know that where they sit, they can play both sides of the fence, though.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's what I'm saying.
You can't. You have to just have that frank conversation with Burrow. Like, Joe, you're supposed to be an elevator. It shouldn't matter whether you have.
Which he has done.
It shouldn't matter whether that's Andre Usivas over there or if it's T. Higgins. They're a similar style of player.
Yeah.
Get him the football when he is open. You're going to throw the ball 18 times per game to Jamar Chase anyway.
I mean, you know that the Bengals D isn't going to go from 30th to 10th.
Right.
But if we can get it to 22nd and keep the offense at the same level.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know that you can do that.
I think they're in a bind, period.
I
don't know what the answer.
I don't know how they can re-sign T. Higgins and look the rest of that team in the face and say, yeah, we're good, guys. Because you're going to have to sign Chase, too.
Chase is going to make so much.
You're going to have $50+ million tied up in 2 wide receivers?
More than.
And then your quarterback's also $100 million in 3 guys?
3 guys.
All on offense?
And that's the only thing you do good.
And Trey Hendrickson is going to stand there and go, what about me? And then he holds out because
he's going to go.
Yeah.
So I think he's leaving either way.
And that's the only thing your defense can hang its hat on is him getting to the quarterback.
I mean, we haven't talked a lot about this, but the best financial move for them is franchising Higgins because it's not nearly as much they make on the open market. but it's his second year doing it. He's not going to be happy.
Nope.
I mean, maybe you tag and trade him. I can't imagine just letting him walk, though. But he's also not as good as Chase and Jefferson.
There were games where if Burrow wanted him so much, why were there entire games and halves of games where he just ignored T. Higgins?
Yeah, it's messy.
He had eyes only for Jamar Chase
either. I mean, the thing that they have Burrow, which every team minus 2 or 3 would kill for, but the rest of the setup is bad.
Yeah,
I don't see a great path.
You got to have a frank conversation with Burrow and like, Joe, we can't have a $300 million offense and spend $20 million on a defense. It's just not. It doesn't work that way.
And if I were Joe, I'd be like, why don't you draft some good people on defense instead of missing on every defensive draft pick?
Well,
I mean, send me to Arizona like you did Carson Palmer.
You can't keep everybody on offense. You just can't.
I know. Man, I don't like how that team's set up.
At 14, he has the Steelers.
Okay. I'd have him ahead of the Bengals.
Yeah. At 13 are the Broncos.
I don't know what their ceiling is.
I would have the Steelers ahead of the Broncos right now.
Yeah. I don't know what the Broncos' ceiling is. But they way outkicked my thoughts for them, but how far can that go?
At 12 are the Chargers. Again, I would have the Steelers ahead of the Chargers right now as we sit here today.
Chargers are a nice spot to improve over the offseason, but they need a lot.
11 are the Rams.
Okay. Kupp's not going to be back. I think Stafford's a 50-50 at this point.
I think he's coming back.
Do you?
Yeah. Everything that I've read about the situation, seen, and I think he's coming back.
Then they're in the hunt.
10 are the Texans.
Okay. I'm okay with that. They have more needs than you think, though. I mean, can you count on Tank Dell? Probably not.
Probably not. 9 are the Buccaneers.
Solid, but not super high ceiling.
Yeah, another year older for some of those guys that they've
the Davids
on.
and Veas and right.
Yeah. 8, the Packers.
Yeah. Their youth, I think, will get better. I'm a Love believer. I'm a LaFleur believer. I'd like to see a splash.
Yeah. I think there's something, too, when Josh Jacobs came out during Super Bowl week and said, we need a true number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
I think they've got a nice group of number 2s.
Oh, yeah. That are cheap and efficient and, cost effective.
But you don't have that. You don't have that guy. And you're not going to get that guy in this draft.
No, I don't know you'll get him, period. Would you trade for Myles Garrett? That's a team I'd consider it. Because I think they need, if you can't get the number 1 receiver, give me the number 1 pass rusher. It'd be great to get both. I can't imagine Tyreek Hill going to Green Bay, Wisconsin. But, I mean, is there any receiver you could get? They're not going to go get Higgins on the open market.
You're not going to get Devontae Adams back.
No, probably not. I don't think he hated it there or anything, but that was a Rodgers connection.
Yeah.
Adams was go to the West Coast, and
7 are the Vikings. I think they're going to take a step back.
I think they're going to take a big step back. I mean, it's probably going to be a quarterback change.
Your entire secondary is headed for free agency.
Yes, you have no day 2 picks, and your O-line needs work.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole defense, personnel-wise, isn't great. Flores got a lot out of that group.
We're in the process of going back over our draft from last year, the final one that we did on the triple take. And I had forgotten the trades that the Vikings made.
Pretty substantial to go get McCarthy.
To go get McCarthy, and then they also traded up with Jacksonville to go get Dallas Turner.
Right.
Who was not good.
No, right.
They got nothing out of 2 guys they traded up to get in the draft.
2 first-round picks that are really mortgaging their future. Again, it's...
Yeah, they gave up a lot. They don't have a second or third round draft pick this year because they went and got those guys.
And I don't think they had one last year. You can't go a couple of years in a row without day 2 picks.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are gold. It's a rough build. And what's McCarthy?
6 are the Commanders.
Out of the Packers, ahead of the Vikes.
I would too.
Just in that division.
Yeah, I would too. Commanders at 6.
I don't know if I'm there yet. I know they're a Final Four team.
They have like 28 guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents.
Right. And they still have holes. I love their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the cheap quarterback option here right now, but it's not super cheap. They took him 2nd overall.
They could be similar to the Bengals, where they have a couple pieces, but they have a lot of needs.
Yeah. 5 are the Ravens.
Okay, that's as low as I would have them.
4, the Lions.
Same neighborhood.
3, the Bills.
Okay. Should the Chiefs be 2? And I don't say that just because they got blown out in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, their offense is going to have to look a lot different. I mean, I don't think Kelsey comes back.
I don't think so either.
You got to find 2 offensive linemen. Be nice to have a number 1 pass catcher of
You're probably
some
going
sort.
to end up losing a couple of defensive pieces that are, Reed and the inside linebacker.
Mm-hmm. I mean, no one's crying for the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong, but Worthy and Rice might be fine as your top 2 receivers, but I wouldn't want something else catching the ball. The ball carriers are,
Yeah, I don't know that Noah Gray just steps in and replaces Travis Kelsey.
No. And Kelsey's declining. The O-line is going to be the priority.
And your running back situation is not great.
No, it's not even good, in my opinion. Right. I mean, Kareem Hunt, Pacheco. I would probably have them behind the Ravens. Maybe Buffalo.
I could see the
Maybe the Lions.
I would definitely have them behind Buffalo.
Yeah. Buffalo's not going to add much, though.
No, they're not.
They're going to pretty much run it back, minus Amari Cooper and a couple pieces.
They did some interesting things in last year's draft. Like, they traded completely out of the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
After moving back once, and then they moved back again to acquire extra picks.
That was the Worthy pick.
Including some in this year's draft.
Yeah. They used one of them for Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
But they know that they have tight cap situations.
Right.
So they didn't kill themselves draft capital-wise.
Yeah. So, they do have at least a little bit more draft capital to make some things work like that.
It'd be nice if Keon Coleman takes a step, or Kincaid in his 3rd year looks like a top 5 tight end or something like that. But they'll be fine.
Yeah. And like you said, their division's awful.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to win double digits.
They're going to win 6 games in the division just because.
Without any problem, without any problem.
And then the Eagles at number 1.
Yeah, and they should be. I mean, they're going to lose a couple things, but every Super Bowl winner does.
So that's Eric Edholm's rankings.
I mostly agree with it. There's not anything I thought were nuts.
Yeah. But you get the top tier teams of 4 or 5.
I would say there's 5 of them.
Yeah.
You want to include the Packers or Vikings.
Then there's that next tier of maybe 7 or 8 teams, and that's where the Steelers are, folks. They're not one of those teams at the bottom.
No. I mean, people are like, they should be 23rd. I mean, like, look at the other teams. They're pretty rough.
You have to look at things objectively. You have to look at the entire league as a whole. Like, they're not the Browns.
No.
They're not the Saints.
There's so many of these teams that have dug themselves deep ditches.
Like, even
the
if
Jets are in that neighborhood, the Dolphins.
If you tried to tank next year, you would have to basically you'd have to say, TJ Watt, we're not going to play you all year. Cam Hayward, we're not going to play you all. Like, you just can't do it.
And obviously, we all realize that they do not have a quarterback signed this second. But
they're going to.
They will. You're right.
Somebody will play quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And it's probably going to be as good as last year.
Yeah.
Probably going to be one of the guys from last year.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That was Eric Edholm's final 2024 power rankings and, I guess, first 2025 power rankings.
Be fun to do one like pre-draft. Maybe I'll whip one up or something.
Do one
after free agency.
In between free agency heading into the draft, and then look at it and see. The draft is you don't know.
Right.
But you kind of have a pretty good idea about free agents.
Sure.
They
added 2 offensive linemen or whatever.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack ended up in Kansas City or something crazy. Who knows?
Anyways, we'll be back with more on The Drive right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, the Steelers have a new defensive backs coach, as we referenced yesterday. Today they made it official, hiring Gerald Alexander as their defensive backs coach. Grady Brown, who had been defensive backs coach, his contract was not picked up.
Okay, yeah.
So Gerald Alexander back with the Steelers. He had been their assistant defensive backs coach in 2022 and 2023.
Okay.
Spent last year with the Raiders, becoming their safeties coach. And Gerald Alexander also had been the defensive backs coach in Miami for a couple of years, including getting 2 seasons there. They tied under his direction in 2020. The Dolphins led the league in interceptions with 18.
Okay.
And Xavier Howard had 10 of those that year.
Yeah, Howard had a breakout year. I mean, he was never the fastest guy. He kind of was a smart break on the ball type corner. and maybe coaching has something to do with it.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
If you look at it, he also coached in college at Cal, where he had Ashton Davis and Cameron Bynum, who's turned himself into a pretty good NFL player. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll see how that.
You mentioned this yesterday, and I've been giving it more thought, that he was defensive back coach with the safeties, but he was,
Raiders.
With the Raiders
group. Yeah.
I like their slot corner.
Nate Hobbs.
Hobbs would be a nice pickup. He is not a 5'8" type, slot corner. He's 6'1", 6 foot, something like that.
We got your coach here. Why don't you come out? And,
right. I mean, he was a favorite there. I didn't know the Raiders might keep him, but he would be somebody I'd give money to on the active market as a slot corner.
Yeah. So this a coaching change for the Steelers here. We'll see if anything else happens here over the coming days. But I mean, I just look at the production that Minkah Fitzpatrick had last year and wonder, could they have adjusted that somewhat?
Yeah.
And I think what people sometimes fail to understand is the defensive backs coach or the position coach has a lot of say in who's on the field.
A lot of substitutions and
the
stuff.
Substitutions
Not that Minkah's coming off, but right.
It also is who's
getting playing time and when,
and that kind of stuff. That's not necessarily a defensive coordinator thing. Or the DC could say, "Why aren't we playing this guy?" And
they have conversations. But
the position coach could say, "Well, this guy had a better practice," or
or his toes bugging him, or whatever. I mean, like a lot of the running back rotations, or running back coach, or with the tight ends,
wide receivers,
defensive backs, right? That's interesting. And say what you want about the Raiders. That's a crappy organization. They don't have a lot of talent on defense, but their defense has been pretty good for a while.
Yeah, they played good defense last year for sure.
They definitely were better than some of their parts.
They actually played better when Max Crosby was out defensively than what they did when he was in there.
Yeah, they kept their defensive coordinator wisely, because they've gotten a lot out of a little on that side of the ball.
So you are adding a guy who had, again, been with a couple of other outside organizations, had been with Flo down in Miami. Brian Flores. So maybe you're going to start working
just incorporating some different ideas,
more of that stuff, and
more cover 4 and more Flores type stuff.
Pierce was pretty good with the defensive stuff as well, as you mentioned. So maybe you picked up some tricks out there as well.
Yeah. Another set of eyes and ears, I think, is from outside the organization is fruitful.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes with all of that. But
that's the news of the day out of the South Side.
Yeah, out of the Steelers organization. I just wanted to mention something. Like, again, I answer a lot of questions on our message boards and things of that nature.
Yeah. And please keep leaving them.
Yeah, absolutely. I go through a couple of different times a day and just go through and answer questions and things of that nature. But there was one poster on there who said that Kevin Colbert has still been involved with the Steelers drafts. And that has not been the case.
It's not true, right?
Not true. He is listed as I don't even know if he's listed on the website, but as a consultant. You keep guys like, put it this way, Chuck Noll was listed as a consultant after he retired. Chuck Noll, I saw one time after he had retired.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the building all the time. You do that as a tip of the cap to a guy who did a good job who earned it.
And I assume he's still on. He still gets the benefits through the NFL and through the Steelers, and maybe gets some kind of check. That's not my business. I don't
stuff
know.
Like
right.
But,
I mean, my last 10 days or 2 weeks with the Browns, Jim Brown got the office next to me. It used to be our director of pro scouting. He didn't do any work,
but it's Jim Brown.
He didn't even know who he was. Yeah. But he had an office with his placard on there, and Kevin Colbert, I think, is going to the Hall of Fame too. I mean, I'm not comparing Kevin Colbert and Jim Brown, but every organization has legends. Then, as you know better than I do, Kevin's not down there grinding the tape and making picks.
No,
I mean, he's retired, as he should be.
Kevin's golfing and going to luncheons and giving speeches. He did just take a job as a consultant for the Colorado State football program. I'm sure he knew somebody at the program, and they asked him, "Hey, can you come in and give us some ideas on how to work all this NIL stuff and things of that nature?
Yeah,
recruiting players
or help us." Give us tips of watching tape. Or
break down tape of the transfer portal guys. Who do we want to try to bring in here that it's Colorado State?
I know. Maybe the Steelers will do the same thing. Here's 10 guys. Can you just write a report on them if you don't mind? Right, or whatever. But he's not making the picks, guys.
Yeah, you'd be foolish not to use that resource.
Yeah, if he's up for it.
But he's not making the picks.
No, and he's not going to be commanding the war room or any of that kind of stuff. He probably won't even be in it.
No.
I mean, he won't be in it, right?
Yeah. So, that idea, no, just because he was listed as a consultant, that
he's
doesn't
not
mean
still pulling the strings or any of that kind of stuff.
Not at
he
all.
had a tremendous career and great respect
and
for him.
deserves his retirement.
He's retired, right?
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, he dropped I saw him last time I saw him over in the South Side. I'm like, whatever diet he is on,
he's lean and mean.
He is lean and mean now. He's like, yeah, it's just the pressure of the job.
I bet it just weighs on you. It's hard on your body. Those coaches and guys that never leave the facility, and there's a weight room and a workouts facility right there. And they might use them.
You don't necessarily have time to do it all the time.
You don't always have time to do it, and the stress is really hard on your body. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he had a bad knee or something at one point too, or he had some kind of
bad knees, bad back, all that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So, anyways,
good for Kevin. Go be retired and hang out with your grandkids.
Absolutely.
And stuff. Right.
Anyways, Matt, that's going to do it for our show today. So
let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do it again tomorrow. We do it every day because that's just what we do. Not on the weekends, but we do. We're here every day of the week. But that's going to do it for the show today. So for my partner, Matt Williamson.
Yeah.
For CJ Wolfley here on site running the soundboard and making sure that the Justin Miller hotline stays fired up, even though we didn't use the Justin Miller hotline today. For Tyler Vittmeyer and for Tevin Dandridge, making sure the video gets out there on the YouTube. Check it out there. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.